Alright, we are back in what is potentially the last game of the day. I certainly hope it's not going to be the case, but as you see, wait a minute, Hyun is back, but he just got knocked out. This is, of course, the Acer Team Story Cup, so we have the awesome rules in place that allow you to resurrect one player when you're on match point, and certainly Quantic Gaming is on match point. You see in the top right, it is 4-1 in the favor of Axiom. So a rough game just played by Hyun, already going to have to come back and play Ryung one more time. But getting into this properly, I'm Rifkin. I hope you guys enjoyed the broadcast so far today on Base Street TV. I did turn the volume up a little bit louder, so I hope it's better for you guys now. But spawning here in the upper left, playing for Axiom, representing his team quite well with that blue, it is Ryung. And his opponents in the lower right, really in desperate place right now. It is playing for Quantic Gaming, Hyun. Now I'm a little bit scared, a little bit worried. Quantic Gaming is, of course, one of my more favorite teams, and as you guys can see, streaming on the Quantic team, we're pretty good friends with Quantic Gaming. That being said, I'm a little jaded on the issue at hand of Hyun versus Ryung. Again, I don't know if maybe other players weren't available, or if they're just putting a lot of confidence in Hyun, or maybe Hyun just says, look, that was a bad game, I know I can do better. But the reality for Hyun right now is his focus has to be on the game at hand. He can't think about what's coming up next. But for us, the third-person viewers, so to speak, the observers, the reality is Hyun's got to get through other players to even get a chance to bring this home for Quantic Gaming. Not only does he have to beat out Ryung, someone who just beat him, he's got to worry about Crank, Alicia. I mean, there's other players lying in wait for him that he has to be afraid of. But of course, Hyun is a champion and has the mindset of one, so I don't think he'll be focused on that. I don't think nerves will get the best of him. Ryung is putting the commander on the high ground this time. After seeing the, I guess, the drone poke from last game, is not going to take any risks with this whatsoever. It looks like we did have a bit of a slap in the face, slap in the base. Down here in the lower corner of the map, we got the workers just kind of chipping away at one another. Hyun is an active scouter, something you can't say for a lot of players. Most Protoss players, for example, in general, don't tend to scout. And I'm not saying that as a race is imbalanced or not. It's just that seems to be the common thing. Terran players always scout, and Hyun is one of the few Zerg players who often scouts with a drone rather than relying on just the Overlord. But what the heck? First blood. Can we talk about this for a second, guys? That was like the sickest SCV kill ever, because that was not only barely done, that was a lot of control. Every drone that was transferring basically stopped for a second to attack that SCV and then immediately went back to the mineral line instead of continuing to chase it. I mean, that doesn't seem like a big significant thing to do, but what Hyun just did was not an easy thing to execute without wasting a lot of time by having the drones play running around the Rosie and chase after that SCV. So, really cool. But okay, Factory is going to come out here for Ryung. We'll see if he can get that Hellion presence on the field that he wasn't afforded last game. I gotta say, it's still amazing to me. Like, so Hyun, again, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for the Roach Baneling style instead of the Mutalisk style. One thing I do love about Hyun, by the way, if you guys didn't know, we were pretty, not close with Hyun, but we got to cast him a lot through Zotac Cups here on Base Trade TV, and at the start of Heart of the Swarm, he expressed quite vividly and publicly that he hates Mutalisks. He just hates them. And now he's sort of become accustomed to using them, I guess. We see him obviously transition to that late game, but I think if he goes for them early, if he plays that more standard ZVP, maybe he'll be able to play a little bit better versus Ryung, because Ryung, I mean, he was denied drops for the entirety of the first half of that last game. He had no map presence. The Hellions did nothing. I don't even know if a single creep tumor was killed before like 15 minutes into the game. But even so, he was still able to eke out, and what are we pinging? What are we pinging? Nothing? Okay, whatever. Anyways, oh, is this one grid space off maybe? I don't know. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make though is Ryung was not able to get much done, but still able to pull out a victory in the end. Hyun, I want to point out, did more damage to himself in that last game than Ryung did. If he plays the more standard style that requires him to be less aggressive, to throw away less units, you know, to have less Banelings die for nothing on the other half of the map, then maybe he can beat Ryung this time. But if he plays that same very aggressive style, he either has to cause A, a lot more damage than he did last time, or B, not throw as many units away. But again, far be it from me to judge Hyun. I'm just calling him as I see him. That last game definitely went in the favor of Ryung. and not because of the damage or the map control that Ryung was able to create that game. Now, he is opening this game with the Cloaked Banshee. The Overlord will not see this coming, and with roaches coming out initially, this is going to be a little bit of a tough thing for Ryung to deal with. He can either, with this third... With the third CC coming down, he's going to be lacking units. He's going to be lacking 3 extra racks. I mean, typically if you go CC first, you'll see 3 racks, expecting a push like this out of Hyun. But looks like he's going to do the 3 base bust that I was talking about last game that he didn't actually get to perform. Actually, maybe not. Hang on, I take that back. There's no banelings available. So just going to hit with roaches for now. With a full wall off, Ryung should be okay. But with the Banshee out... So here's the catch-22 to this, right? If you send the Banshee across the field... It's going to get some kills. A Banshee 101 beats a Queen, and if you cloak it, more power to you. But that means there's going to be nothing at home. There's nothing in the bunker. There's nothing to hold these roaches at bay. So because of this, the Banshee's now forced to shoot these in the middle of the map instead of going to that mineral line. And picking off a roach or two is always nice, but as we see, it takes quite a few hits to kill a roach, even with a Banshee. The damage on a Banshee, of course, quite high, but again, roaches, very robust, very strong. So amaze. Many healths. Such carapace. Shibi. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop, but with the Spore Crawler here, he should be okay to defend against this. All he needs, of course, really is detection more than anything else, but as long as Ryung is careful with his Banshee control, he can shoot away at this. Yeah, he'll pick off a drone or two here or there, can hold position towards the gas. Actually didn't kill that last drone, but Hyun is in an unfortunate spot where he wanted to go across the field with those roaches. He wanted to hit early, and if he did, there would have been nothing to stop him. There was nothing in the bunker at the time. There were no Widow Mines available, and there's only a couple Hellions, but now Ryung's actually been afforded a lot of opportunity. By sitting back at home like this, Hyun's not in trouble, but he's allowing Ryung to just get his infrastructure up. Unabated. 2 Banshees now going to come in. Will, of course, dance in and out to one-shot, essentially, the workers. Queen is in a bit of danger, and he knows this, so he has to back up behind the Spore Crawler, dancing around to the best of his capabilities. But again, if Hyun had rushed out something like Mutalisk, this wouldn't be an issue. However, we do see him going for Hydralisk. He's going to go for Roach Hydra versus Bio. This is where I pause and think, okay. Because, okay, Roach Hydra versus Bio can and does work in the essence that Hydralisks don't have a clear counter. If you get Ghosts out, yes, in the end, Ghosts technically deal more damage to Hydralisks, but even then, Hydralisks have this sort of glass cannon effect where even with their low health pool, Marines have even less. Marauders don't do a lot of damage, and the attack's so slow in comparison to Marines, so the Hydralisk will actually break through most of the initial Bioforce. Even with medevac support, it's a lot of damage, and the Roaches are there to just tank. If they do some damage, fantastic, but they are there to tank for the Hydralisks. Ryung is actually initially going to be in some trouble. If he gets enough medevacs out, he might be okay, but of course, as you try and contend with Hydralisks, ooh, nice snipe of that Banshee, the only way to really beat them with a Bioforce is to overwhelm them, to have more Marines, more Marauders than your opponent has Hydralisks, than they have Roaches. So Hyun's going to be hitting at this timing, which might, if he pokes out with this, there's not going to be a lot to contend with him. But if he waits too long, then Ryung's production, which is just now finished putting the reactors on, is going to get underway, and he's going to have a lot available to him. A side note to this, fun fact, if you guys have never seen a player named HTO Mario play, he's a very well-renowned GM North American mech player. What he does when he sees Roach Hydra is he goes through Drilling Claws and makes, and I'm not even kidding you guys, like upwards of 40 Widow Mines. If you walk 40 Widow Mines into a clump of Roaches and Hydralisks and you instantly bro with Tunneling Claws, everything just dies. Just straight up, everything dies. And it's hilarious to watch, and I would recommend you guys try and find a game where he does that, because it's the last thing you would think to see versus Roach Hydra. Now, Ryung's not going to go for that. He's not playing mech. He's got 2 factories, but that's never going to happen in this sort of situation. But it's always funny to see, because Roach Hydra versus Terran is a very uncommon... or sorry, I shouldn't say versus Terran. Versus Bio is a rather uncommon strategy, but 2-2 upgrades coming out for both players. Hyun, of course, going to have a slightly superior army, as Hydras are very, very strong and very efficient versus Bio, but, you know, if Ryung starts incorporating some tanks, if he starts having more Bio, I mean, there's multiple ways to get around the Hydralisk. Don't make a mistake. Like, I'm talking a big game for the Hydralisk, but it's not like they're unstoppable. Hashtag unstoppable. As they can and should be shut down by a Terran player who sees this coming from far enough away, but Ryung's trying to go for some drops, going to also not be able to do this too effectively as well. I like the positioning of the Spore Crawler, actually. This is the typical drop path to come in from this side. I love listening to the Roaches. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Like, the sound they make when they're stampeding is so ridiculous. But the Viking has 2 kills on it. We'll get a 3rd one here with this Overlord. Ryung, though, still playing that very slow style. Again, not really able to get drops off, which I find astounding, by the way, considering the fact that, again, there's no Mutalisks. So, to explain the evolution of the game for people, like, I think a lot of you guys watch this game and just accept facts, but, like, the reason Mutalisks became a big part of this wasn't necessarily because they're good. They are good, don't make a mistake about that, but they mostly shut down medevac drops, and as a Terran player, you're going to be dropping with, like, 99% of your strategies. As we see, drop come down and the natural is cleaned up. But if you got Mutalisks on the field, there's no way to drop. There's no way to outmaneuver them. Even with a boost, the Mutalisks still outrun the medevac. So, ooh, big scan actually reveals not only the angle in which this attacks, but the exact composition of Hyun. So many Hydralisks. Oh my god, the Widowmines are going to have to just get the best hits in the world off. They're going to get stoked up by those Roaches, and the Hydras are going to be left uncontested, I feel. This sort of Hydralisk style is going to come in really hard. The Roaches are going to soak those Widowmine hits as predicted, but I don't know that Ryung has enough. There's so many Hydralisks, no tanks, no splash damage, nothing to equalize these forces. And looks like Hyun is going to force his base to lift, but still pushing in strong. The Bioforce going to try and take this fight. Looks like the herd has been thinned out just enough. Maybe, just maybe, Ryung can push through this, but as we see, still losing everything in the process. And looks like even this might not be enough. The Hydralisks still stand, and he will continue to push. There are bunkers here, though. This might put an end to Hyun's push. Might want to try and retain these Hydralisks, but man, did he just do a lot of damage. Tears down to the base and a half, but still loses a lot for it. Of course, Wisp Stim will get on top of these Hydras. No Burrow or anything like that to help these guys escape. Sadly, Muster Augments, even off creep, well, a little bit faster. Still not fast enough, it seems. But okay, that hit was absolutely necessary. Taking down that base. How many workers got killed? 21 SCVs were brutally murdered in the making of this game. But Hive Tech going to come out next year, and Vipers could be on the way. I would love to see Infestors come out for Hyun, though, in this sort of situation. Fungling the army in place, getting that extra AoE damage off, but may not even need it as he pushes into the third one more time. The Roach is just going to walk right on top of the Widowmines. Their job has been accomplished. They're here to soak the hits, and the Hydralisks will find only Marines and Marauders. Still, no third component, no special chemical X as he takes down the Medevacs, he takes down the Marines, he takes down the Marauders. Hyun is going to push into this pretty hard, and this base has been lifted one more time. Good game is called, and Hyun says, you know what, you beat me once, shame on me, but you're not going to beat me again. And he brings Quantic back up now 2-4. Still on match point, though. Don't get too excited, guys. Hyun is not out of deep waters yet. If we can just find the title here, update it real quick. I need to run to grab more water, though. I have consumed all of my water at this point, so we're going to run some ads. I'm going to try to get some music up real quick. And I'm going to get some water, because my throat's killing me, so be back ASAP. Don't go anywhere, guys. Thanks for watching.